welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 420, and today's date is July 19th, 2014, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief for this Saturday. Now, we all understand that the total economy is completely collapsing upon itself. And we can see this with, first of all, the Baltic Dry Index, which is continually dropping. We can also see this by the world GDP. Now, the world GDP has dropped since March of 2013 from about 3.3 all the way down to 2.4. It is a huge, huge drop, and this just goes to show you that the world GDP is heading downward. The trend is completely down. The Baltic Dry Index is heading down, and we can see, putting these two together, we have major, major problems coming up. Because if we look at the world GDP, we start back in March of 2013, and we were at that 3.3 area, and going forward, it has dropped ever since. If we look at December of 2013, we are down around 2.85. If we look at March of 2014, we're at 2.80. If we look at May, we're around 2.5, and now we have made a huge drop all the way down to 2.4. So we can see that we are in a downward trend. The economies are not getting better. They are getting worse, and guess what? The central bankers realize this. This is why we see all this chaos around the world starting to really pick up and escalate. This is why they're quickly positioning now all the military assets that they need and placing everything surrounding China and Russia. They're doing this because they know for a fact that they will start World War III. They will do everything they possibly can to do this. Now, in the meantime, they need to keep everyone in the illusion that we're in this recovery, that everything is fine, and this is why we have the NSA. Of course, England has their own spy agency, the GCHQ, and what we've learned from Edward Snowden is they can manipulate many, many things on the internet. Now, one of the things they can do is they can manipulate the results of online polls to make them look completely different than what the poll numbers are showing, to make everyone believe like, oh, do you believe that we're heading for an economic collapse? And they can switch it and say no. Everyone says no, see? So everything looks good. They can artificially inflate page view counts on websites, amplify sanctioned messages on YouTube, and censor video content judged to be extremist. So they do have the ability to pretty much manipulate anything they need to on the web. And we've seen this. I mean, there has been no real explanation of why the channel on YouTube came down. None at all. And then right after that, there was someone who cloned my account and started posting messages all over the place, and then they quickly stopped that and changed the name to Memphis from X22 Report. So we can see that these spy agencies are continually manipulating what people see. And we can see right now from previously disclosed documents have detailed that they've created fake victim blog posts, false flag operations, honey traps, and psychological manipulation to target online activists, monitor visitors to WikiLeaks, and spy on YouTube and Facebook users. So all of this shows us that they are creating this internet deception type of scenario for everyone to make them believe the opposite of what is happening. Now, there's only one reason you would actually want to do this, is because they realize that the collapse is coming. They realize that the alternative media is starting to report things that they don't want reported. And the only way they can combat this is to have, of course, trolls out there commenting, saying that, no, you're wrong. It looks like the economy's getting better. I see trolls on there saying, oh, I unsubscribe, or trolls on there saying many different things. And they do this on purpose to make people believe that, oh, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't be listening to this. But I think most of the people now are waking up and they're realizing, guess what? These are trolls. I can see them now. It's very obvious. Now, we understand that the United States has a terrorist database, but what's very interesting about this is that the database is growing at a rapid rate. They're putting more and more people on this, and it's really expanding. The U.S. government is rapidly expanding the number of names it accepts for inclusion on its terrorist watch list, with more than 1.5 million added in the last 5 years. So we can see right now that these numbers are completely growing, and they're growing very quickly. 99% of these names submitted are accepted. They, you know, they don't even check. I mean, they're just saying, yes, this is a terrorist, put them on the list. Now, they're putting them on these lists, and what's very interesting, this is not the only list. There are other lists that people don't know of, where people are then being placed on for certain criteria. And we can see that all of this is being used to find out who is a threat to the government's authority, because they realize, and we've have been learning now, that all these countries, the EU, the United States, are all planning for civil unrest. And they are creating police forces, they're purchasing water cannons, and we can see this is continually going on. The IMF is saying the same thing, that, if we keep this going, we're going to have major, major problems. And they're talking about, the wealth inequality. So they realize what is going on, and they see that, yes, as this continues and everything starts to break down, there's going to be the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots are going to, and there's plenty more of have-nots than there are that haves, and they're going to start to realize, well, wait a minute, what is going on here? I can't get food, I can't get water, we're making no money, and the people will rise up. It happens every single time the same way throughout history. These elite, the central bankers, the people always think like, oh, don't worry, we'll keep them down, but it never happens. The people will always rise up, because when you push them into a corner against the wall, there's no other place to go except forward at that point. Now, we understand that the United States has placed more sanctions on Russia. The EU nations really didn't want to go along with this, and they kind of stepped back and let the United States place the sanctions. And of course, they placed it on more individuals, more corporations. And now Russia right now is saying that 12 U.S. citizens are not allowed to come into Russia. They're placing sanctions on these 12 different citizens. And we also see that Russia now is really advancing and moving forward and saying, you know what, you continually place sanctions on us, we're going to go right to the business and hurt your businesses. The State Department and state-run companies will no longer purchase PCs built around Intel or AMD processors, banning the use of foreign cars for officials in favor of home-produced cars. So right now, Russia's policy on Western technology is clear. The country can do without it right now. And of course, they're also doing this because they understand that the NSA has backdoors in both of these processors, and they're trying to remove them just like China is. And this will hurt the American business. You have to remember, it was like 2 days ago, I reported on the business organizations coming out saying these sanctions will hurt the businesses here in the United States, but the central bankers don't care about this, because they realize eventually the whole entire scheme is to get us into war, to cover up this entire collapse. Now, it looks like Germany and Russia are getting closer together now. We understand that, Germany asked for their gold back, and of course, the United States, the Federal Reserve said, oh, we'll give it back in 7 years. We also realize that Germany does not trust the United States because of all the spying that's been going on. And right now, Angela Merkel and Russian President Putin have agreed for international investigation into the downing of the Malaysian Airlines plane over Ukraine. So they seem to be working together at this point. Now, the Kiev authorities and militia forces operating in the eastern Ukraine agreed to create a security zone around the Malaysian airline, and this is going to be a zone about 20 square kilometers, which is about 7.7 square miles, and they're going to make sure that the people that are coming in are safe. And of course, on the corporate media, they're all out there saying that the southeastern people are keeping them away. No, what they're doing is before they move in, they're making sure that it's safe, it's cordoned off, and it looks like there's about a group of about 131 specialists from Malaysia en route to the site of the crash. And we can also see that about 50 or 60 journalists from various international aviation security agencies are going to arrive in Malaysia. And you have to remember the United States is bringing in the FBI and the NTSB to act as advisors. Now, anytime you see the United States coming in with advisors, they're put there to make sure things don't get out, and the things that need to be covered up, they are continued covered up, and this is why they're there. And we know for a fact that the CIA, NATO, and other agencies, the FBI, were inside Ukraine during the coup d'etat, after the coup d'etat, and you know why they were there, because they were directing everything. And this is why the FBI is also going to go there, because they need to control the situation. Now, it looks like the news is coming out that Ukraine security services have confiscated the air traffic control recordings. Now, they don't want this out. They don't know where it is, and I believe that this should have been handed over to the international group that's handling this. And of course, these recordings have gone who knows where, and they probably want to listen to them first, and if they have to modify them, they will, because this is what they do. They take what they need, they have to listen to it, and modify the recordings to fit the story, because the story kind of is falling apart at this time. But you could see all around the corporate news, the United States is not letting up on pointing the fingers to Russia. Now they're saying that, yeah, maybe the southeastern people couldn't fire the missiles, but guess what? The Russians probably actually did the firing. They have no proof whatsoever. It's all speculation. They're just continually pushing the propaganda out there because they want everyone to realize and understand that, yes, it was Russia. Yes, it was Russia. And we saw this during the Syrian chemical attack. They had absolute no proof whatsoever, and they just kept on going on and on and on that it was Assad without any proof. And people were asking, where's the proof? They showed photographs of people that were affected by the gas, but there was no proof of actually who did it. And then it turns out that, yes, it was the rebels. MIT did an experiment, and they said it was impossible for Assad's forces to fire this missile. And when they looked at the missile, it was definitely the rebel. It was like a homemade type of thing, and the trajectory was from the rebel area. So we can see right now that the United States government, the central bankers, the puppet regime in Ukraine are continually pushing out propaganda, and they need to do this because they have absolutely no proof whatsoever. Now, there is a story out there, and the rebel commander, the southeastern people who were on site, said there's something very strange about these bodies. They aren't fresh. It looks like the blood was completely removed from the bodies, and they don't look like, you know, they were just killed during this plane crash. It looks like they were killed days before. And Ukraine is out there, and they're saying, we have special reports that the rebels, the southeastern people, are stealing bodies from the area. Now, why would the southeastern people come out and say, listen, these bodies don't look fresh, it looks like they're drained of blood, and then go ahead and steal them? It makes no sense whatsoever. Why would they need to steal the bodies? This is propaganda. They're trying to cover something up, and every time they try to cover something up, they create another piece of a story to make you believe that something's happening. Now, what are these bodies? Now, there are speculation out there that the plane's cargo bay was loaded with dozens of infected corpses, drained of their blood, and countless packets of possible virus-contaminated blood serum. I mean, this is getting, much scarier than just a downed plane, because if this is true, it means that this is being used for another reason, to infect an area. Now, again, this is speculation. We don't know why these bodies are dead, why they're carrying corpses in the plane, and why they have this. And, you know, as more and more information comes out, we will find out why this is. But we still have to remember, during that whole Malaysian incident of MH370, that plane disappeared, And then we come to find out that Israel had a second plane in a hangar, which was a duplicate of that Boeing 777, and right now we're seeing another Malaysian flight that was down. So this whole thing is not sitting right now. And we also know that Israel invaded Gaza at the same exact time. Now, again, I don't believe in coincidences. This was just too perfect. And all of this coming out now was just way too perfect to be a coincidence. Now, yesterday I reported on that it looks like the Ukraine was really responsible for this, and of course they're going to say absolutely not. And back in 2001, Ukraine did actually shoot down a plane. They denied it, and then they finally had to admit, yes, it was an accident. This I don't believe was an accident. I think this was done on purpose. I think this was done to push the agenda, to blame Russia, and continue down the path here. And I think Israel, for somehow, some way, fits into this, and they were helping with this downing of the Malaysian flight to cover up, because if you notice, ever since this happened, pretty much all of what Israel is doing on Gaza now has been wiped from the corporate media, and everything now is focused on the Malaysian flight. And usually they do this for a distraction. If I think back to the Boston bombing, for one day, I don't know if everyone can remember this, for one day in Texas, a fertilizer plant was hit, and a lot of people speculated it was hit with a missile. And if you looked at the video, it kind of does look like it was hit with a missile. And that pretty much took the focus off what happened in Boston down to Texas, because I believe what was happening in Boston at that time is that they were trying to pin this on the gun people, the Second Amendment supporters, because at that same exact time, the gun bill was in the Senate being voted on, and the bomb that was used was black powder, and it seems like they were trying to build this up, but the story fell apart, so they needed to regroup, so they needed something, a different incident to occur, and it just so happened it happened exactly at that point, and then they ordered everyone to send in their photographs because they wanted to see all the information that was coming in. So this whole thing just reeks of distraction right now, plus to push the agenda to blame it on Russia, because the United States government has not led up in blaming Russia, and we know why they're doing this, because they want to start World War III. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.